Blog Talk Radio.
Paranormal Review Radio.
Hello and welcome, everyone. It is Friday night, and you are listening to Paranormal Review Radio with your host, Anthony Agati in New York.
And me, Lucy Liebrig from Chicago. We are so happy that you're here with us tonight. Our chat room is up and running, so feel free to further discuss the topic or ask a question. You can also call in with your questions to 661-244-9831. Make sure you press the number 1 to get into the queue. And if you lose your sound on your player, just refresh your page or log back in. You know, Blog Talk can be a little bit wacky sometimes. And you can also send us an email at paranormalreviewradio@yahoo.com. And be sure you check us out on our Facebook show page.
You know, Lucy and I have noticed a great increase in the amount of demonologists that have popped up in the paranormal community. I have a bad feeling that ego and the influx of paranormal reality television has fueled these demonologists to begin their mistaken and dangerous career path. Do we believe in exorcisms? Yes, we do. Do we believe in demons? Of course. Do we think that most of the so-called demonic possession cases are mainly contributed to the mental disability or drug-induced victims? Yes. Why? Because a demonic possession is extremely rare and is only true in a very small amount of cases worldwide. You don't believe me? Okay, well then, let's talk to someone who has been around such cases and has very strong opinions on demonology. Melanie Cabrera is the founder, lead clinician, and an investigator with the Parapsychological Research Investigators of Spirits and Mind, otherwise known as PRISM. This group is devoted strictly to the scientific research of psychological phenomena in the spiritual realm, mainly contributing psychopathological factors influencing paranormal phenomena. Melanie will talk to us about the clinical view on demonology. But before we welcome Melanie to the show, I would like to express a warning. Our topic tonight on demonology has a tendency to get very heated and maybe somewhat controversial. We will be discussing certain methods and specific people in the demonology world. We will be expressing our opinions based on the information we received from news and online. If you disagree with our statements, that is your prerogative. And as you, we are all entitled to our opinions on this topic, especially when you are talking about the safety and health of innocent and unknowing victims. Please have an open mind and foremost, respect the topic and our show tonight. Okay, now that I said that, let's welcome Melanie Cabrera to the show. Hey, Melanie, are you ready to rattle some nerves tonight?
Absolutely. Hope everyone brought their Skittles.
We love it.
Hi, Melanie. You know what,
Hello.
dear? I want to get right into this discussion tonight, okay? So
sounds good.
Why don't you start off by giving us a little bit about your background, your education, and what is PRISM all about?
Okay. Well, by day, I am a child and family stabilization clinician. Basically, in a nutshell, what that means is I treat children who have major mental illness, or what we call SED, severe emotional disturbance. This can range from several psychotic disorders like schizophrenia, severe mood disorders like bipolar disorder that also comes with psychosis, things of that nature. And what I tend to find is, well, as research indicates, that stuff's hereditary. So there's usually a intimate family member, like mother or father, who also suffers from a very similar disorder along the spectrum. That's basically what I do day in, day out. and I've brought it into the paranormal field because I found that, unfortunately, there were far too many teams and individuals out there that were exploiting clients, not taking into consideration the type of population that we kind of attract in this field. Severely traumatized children, and something needed to be done about that. So we provide aftercare, and we also are heavily involved in the research aspects as well.
Well, Melanie, can I ask you, how did you get started with the paranormal investigating side of it?
Well, let's just say I had a few experiences myself as a child. I don't get into that too deeply, but suffice to say that my own parents had me tested for several disorders, and they all come back negative, obviously. And it kind of led me to wonder, much later in life, how many other kids were going through this type of thing. I had one particular experience when I was working at it was a private mental health agency. I was doing emergency services, third shift, and what was formerly known as the old Worcester City Hospital. It had been since converted to a private, agency. And I used to use my breaks for nap time. I can say that now because I no longer work for that agency. But I had been rudely awoken one night, thought it was the security officer, and I was by myself.
Wow.
So it kind of propelled me to, okay, obviously this is not going away. I got to get back into it. And just kind of took off from there.
Well, you know what, you briefly mentioned paranormal groups, and I'd just like to touch on, what are your thoughts on most of the paranormal groups out there? I mean, do you feel that some of them are misguided when it comes to investigating private homes?
I do think that many may have really, really good intentions, but they are misguided, I mean, if we watch television, we take that as gospel, we're going to go into a home and replicate what we see. I don't believe that any investigation team, just starting out, should be in homes. Only the most experienced should be, and that's if they have the true intention of helping the family and they educate themselves. And that means, reading, doing actual research, not, let's see what Zach Bagans does and follow suit,
Right.
He's not exactly a good mentor.
Melanie, in your experience, and maybe this could be answered by percentage, what I'm trying to find out is sort of the stats from your experience. When people speak of, the activity that they consider to be paranormal, and that could be, a kind paranormal, gentle paranormal, or it could be an evil or so-called demonic in nature, how often does it turn out to be something psychological in nature?
Well, I mean, if I look at our own caseload and what we've done, which you have to understand, our caseload's a little bit different probably from the norm. Most of the cases that we receive, they're referrals from other teams who are just like, okay, this one's way out of our realm.
Right.
But what we've found is, I want to say a good 95% are psychological.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that's so high?
Again, taking into consideration the uniqueness of our caseload, this field, the paranormal activity attracts those that are vulnerable. And actually, let me rephrase that. Perceived paranormal activity attracts those that are more vulnerable, particularly those with severe mental illness, ranging from major depression all the way up through the psychotic disorders. One of the key elements is they lack insight into their own mental health issues. It's so much easier to place blame upon something that's external than it is to look within themselves for the answers. So
I like that.
I
like that you said that, because what it basically says it's their own denial in the truth, and many times today there are a lot of people that don't want to take the responsibility of things, whether it's paranormal or not, and they want to pass off the buck. They want to pass off the blame onto something else because they don't believe it to be them or of them that they're causing these things. But I find it absolutely fascinating that it was 95% of those cases are psychological and not paranormal.
Yep. I mean, now I will say, about 5%, and I do agree with Dave, who just mentioned, he thinks it's actually a little bit, higher than that. 5%, I want to say about 5%, it's just unexplained. There were psychological factors, but there were still some things that we just couldn't put our fingers on. So that's, to us, it's not paranormal. It's just, okay, you know what, we can't explain it. We got to do some more research and try to help the clients figure that out. But, one of the things is, paranormal beliefs, experiences, typically what we're finding is that it's associated with childhood trauma, a real need for interpersonal control. They completely feel like they lack control in their own lives. Lack of childhood control as well. One of the things that I do is a full assessment in every case, and what we're finding is stemming from childhood all the way up through, there are some major developmental issues as well. I'm going to probably piss some people off, and I'm sorry, but if we look at a majority of the investigative teams that we have issues with, what are we finding? What are we finding? We're finding, egocentric behavior. They take no responsibility for their own actions, so on and so forth. It's like, okay, they kind of mirror our clients. It's sad to say, but
it's true. It's
true.
Basically, somebody told me last week that it's sort of like the blind leading the blind.
Yes, very much
right?
so. Very much so, and that is a disastrous combination when it's in a home, particularly when there's children involved.
Exactly, and that is the one reason why Lucy and I wanted to do this show, because it can be disastrous. And I don't think a lot of people, a lot of groups and teams out there that are forming together because of, like what you say, you see the Zacks and you see the Ghost Hunters and you see all these shows on television that they think it's just so fun that they can do it, and they walk into a home blinded, and you don't know the potential harm that you could actually even increase before, or when you leave that private home. But why do you think groups out there don't conduct the psychological testing of their clients first before investigating? Could these teams actually do it, without having someone like you on their team?
No.
Maybe there's a set of medical questions that they could run through and send it to somebody. I'm not sure what could be the process, but is there a way that they could?
It depends on really the case in question. One of the things that we do offer is a safety assessment. It's a standardized form, and we ask that, as part of the initial interview process, just go through this form. And if there's a lot of red flags, just come back to us for consultation on whether or not, you really should be going into this home, given the team setup that you have. What things do you need to look out for, so on and so forth. Check for medications.
Right, yeah, it's simply
that's
just
a
asking.
big thing right there.
Exactly.
If you have a client that, even if it's for, a medical use, that could be causing some type of, hallucinations or what we call magical thinking and so on and so forth. But, again, good intention teams, they're more apt to take that type of advice. But unfortunately, there's far too many out there that you say this to them, oh, we got it handled. Yeah, right. And that's why we get the cases that we get, and I've had to hospitalize children because of jerks like that, which I shouldn't have to do.
Right. You talked about television shows, we briefly just brought that up, and we just talked about the whole psychological testing before going into a private home and dealing with a family. Why do you think that, or maybe this could be some sort of challenge that we put out there for the paranormal television shows out there? Why do you think that they don't put that side on television? That I know that TAPS, like Ghost Hunters, that group originally when they first started, or they probably still do it now if they are still doing it off air, they did conduct those testings prior to going to a location. If not so much the parapsychological or psychological, if that's the word, like what you do. I know that they do ask the questions, like if you are on medication, if you've got any history of such and such, blah, 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 blah. Do you think that these paranormal shows should actually put that on there to give the true aspect of what a group should be doing before they go into a location?
Well, the thing is, I'll be honest with you, I don't watch the shows. At one time, I did watch Ghost Adventures for comedy relief. But I don't even do that anymore because it makes me sick. But one thing I did notice is, those, the two top shows, GAC, TAPS, they're not even going into homes. They're going to public locations.
Right.
So it's like, okay, individual teams are taking it upon themselves to generalize to private homes. It's like, no, stick to your cemetery hopping and, where you got to pay $1,000 to go visit this, asylum or whatever. Go knock yourself out, have fun, chase demons, do what you want to do. But don't generalize it to the private homes. Personally, I do think that, the shows really should put out there either kids don't try this at home or some type of a disclaimer saying, don't mess around with families. But they don't.
Of course, television, it seems like it's given birth to the whole demonic activity thing. And every time something negative happens, everybody automatically says, oh, no, it's a demon. So you did mention that there are about 5% of cases that you had questions to. Can you say that you've actually come in contact with something demonic in your experience?
Well, I came in contact once with something that, if it wasn't demonic, well, it sure as hell had me fooled. I can't say for certain what it was. We're still kind of researching that. I'm still in contact with the family. You see, that was one particular case that my objectivity, I will fully admit, went completely out the window, and I actually ended up taking a little bit of a break from the field for a while to figure out what the hell happened, because I had no idea. So, if it wasn't, like I said, it has me fooled. But in the same token, there still exists the possibility that it's, what we call a manifestation of mind. There was so much anger and resentment and bitterness and negativity emanating from one individual that, it's just a theory, but it could have been from him, not because he was possessed. We're not sure. We're not sure. So that's one of those that I have my finger kind of around it, but I can't put it on it.
Right.
Just how damaging is it when people start to label things demonic to homeowners? Is there some kind of psychological trigger that could make the whole situation worse than it is?
Absolutely. I have to be careful on how I phrase this because the cases that we do have are protected under HIPAA because of the medical aspects. But just to generalize a little bit, I've had 1, 2, 3 instances where I've had to make referrals and what we call Section 12, where someone had to be committed to a hospital. One young man attempted suicide, thankfully did not succeed. Another one, 14-year-old girl, was told that she was possessed, and she tried to cut the demon out of her.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah. And, of course, the teams that were involved in that, oh, no. We had nothing to do with that. Oh, yeah, okay. And one other one, thankfully, the wife was smart enough to just call and say, hey, a friend of mine told me to call you. This is what's going on. He was severely depressed and expressing suicidal ideation, so it was just a matter of calling his doctor, and his doctor made the referral to have him committed. But, yes, it can be very, very damaging, depending on whether or not that individual or child is vulnerable, due to mental illness, or, and again, in the case of that child, she also suffered from juvenile schizophrenia, and that particular team was completely oblivious.
It's almost, and I think somebody mentioned this in chat, that it's almost someone who has a psychological issue with themselves, that they're more prone to suggestion. So when somebody comes in and is sort of a stature, of a higher stature, someone who they look upon as an authority to come in and give an answer, because you're so vulnerable at that point. When
they're looking for answers. They're just looking for answers for things that they can't explain. And if we're coming in there, yes, they're looking at us as, well, you guys are the quote-unquote experts. Tell me how to get rid of this. Tell me how to make this stop.
Right.
So you get some
jerk
going in. Right, and they will. They'll believe anything, because you are the expert, and they're scared, and they're already traumatized.
They're searching for an answer. They want a fix.
Right.
Well, Melanie, have you worked with the so-called demonologists in the field, and what has been your overall experience with them?
Well, I've worked with a couple. One, excellent experience. Another one, not so much, but, we took care of that on another show. And, sorry, guys. But, the positive experience of it, of the other one, we essentially, we did work with one. The family was, they're devout Catholic. And we kind of knew it wasn't demonic. However, I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard of cognitive behavioral therapy, but one of the premises of CBT is you meet the client where they're at. You attempt some type of cognitive restructuring and alleviate symptoms so that you can reframe and change cognitions or how that individual is thinking. So what this particular demonologist did was he went in and he blessed the home, cleansed the home, went through that whole process. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of ignorant as to that process. That's why I brought the demonologist in to do it. And then we started to work on, once they were in a better place, they felt better. Okay, this was not demonic. Let's try to figure out what else this was. But now that your home is clean and peaceful, we can start healing. There was nothing in that house. But you have to meet the client where they're at, particularly when they're traumatized. And we've also made excellent use of, some other healers, if you will, depending on, what spiritual or religious beliefs the clients have, because it is therapeutic.
All right, Melanie, let's get into the demonologist itself. I have a problem with this term demonologist. It is so suggestive of a, quote unquote doctor-like position, and we just talked about that has an answer for patients. One in particular that I have come across online is, and, I'm going to bring up some folks, and if you don't want to comment, you can say, you don't want to comment, and we'll move on. That's quite all right. One in particular that I've come across online is a guy that's in the name of Dr. J. Dodd. And he has a website called The Demon Doctors. And I don't want to say his website, but it makes the point because his website is called The Demon Doctors. And on his homepage, he states that he's neither a priest, psychic, neither a demonologist or a doctor, but yet he calls himself a doctor, and he writes his name that way, Dr. J. Dodd. I find this highly offensive. Are you familiar with this guy, and have you ever dealt with him?
I've never dealt with him. I refuse to deal with him simply because he puts himself out there as a doctor, and a demon doctor, no less.
Right.
That is not the message that we want to send in this field to clients who are terrified that they have demons. And I did out of curiosity check out his website as well a while back. And we can do remote cleansings. Oh
I know,
yeah.
I saw that.
That part's free, though, but if he has to come to your house, you're paying for his trip, you're paying to put him up in a hotel, all this other stuff. Give me a break. Give me a break. All right? Just seriously, hello, exploitation. Nice to meet you.
Exactly. But you know what the funny thing is, though? People call him up. I mean, I don't know how true it is. I mean, he could be fabricating, all of these great compliments that he's getting from people. But I'm assuming he's still in the business, and I'm assuming people are calling it up. But that says to the fact of the individual themselves, of the what I would call the victim in that case, of their psychological nature.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing. People see doctor. He doesn't profess to be a doctor, but yet doctor's in his name. Doctor of what?
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know doctor of what. Did you get your doctorate from one of those, fly-by-night diploma mills, or are you actually, what is it, philosophy? What is it? Right. I would like to know that. But he makes no mention of that anywhere on the website. What are your credentials? You're not, you're supposedly not a spiritualist. You're not, a priest or anything else. What are you? What is your angle?
Right. And that's the reason why we're talking tonight, because it's the folks like this that are out there in the paranormal community that are falsely spreading these, authoritative levels and statures amongst themselves. It's, they're self-creating this for themselves and going out there and claiming that they can help people. But in actuality, you have no idea what you could be actually increasing psychological issues with the people that you're dealing with. And, it may be fine and dandy that first night and you go home, and then what is it? There's no follow-up care. There's no nothing. I commend you for doing that. I love that you do that. But there's so many other folks out there that just walk away and that's it.
Well, yeah, because, they've gone in and they've taken their pictures and they've collected their purported EVPs, used their Frank's box or whatever, crappy equipment that hasn't been empirically tested, but it's scientific because it's a, glorified remote control.
Right.
There's no need to do anything else. They've got what they want. Mm-hmm. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
then I get the call.
Exactly. Then you go to work now. I believe people can be demonologists, and what I mean by that is they can study and learn all there is to know about demons and evil and theology, but I have a problem with the regular, man and woman practicing demonology. And Lucy and I spoke to Bishop James Long a few months back, and I agree that it should be a person of clergy, or at least a person of clergy that conducts exorcisms or casts out demons. They should be, of someone of faith, any faith, to be able to have no sin or evil thoughts, to be able to attack demons. Do you agree with this scenario?
Absolutely. I do. I stalk some of the groups and things like that, and I hear about this one who just decided one day she's going to study demonology. Well, that's great. Don't use it, okay? Because
right.
What are you going to do? I mean, last time I checked, only the Vatican can allow an exorcism to happen. So if you don't have that blessing, you don't. Just stop it. Yeah. I mean, personally, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I'm not really sure, yes, I know some believe that the exorcisms, they work. In some cases, I guess they do. But what if you have someone who is not Christian? Then is that really going to work for them?
Right.
Because they don't believe in the same thing? No, then you need another type of spiritualist. Every culture has their own, whether it's shaman, But in the same token, it seems the popular, version of all of this is, we're going to jump on the Christian bandwagon. There's a lot more to demonology than just the Catholic viewpoint, the Christian viewpoint.
Right.
And that's what I think a lot of these so-called demonologists don't get. You have to understand the basic tenets of just about all religions and all aspects of spirituality in order to really be a demonologist. I'm sorry.
Right. And I think some of them who are calling themselves demonologists are going out there. They know that there has to be a religious aspect, a theologian aspect to their work. And so what they'll basically do is go online and be ordained online from some, minute little church that's probably been born in somebody's basement, across the country, and they call themselves now an ordained minister. And now that they feel they've got that religion in them to be able to do this, to dupe these people and say that they can cast out these demons.
Yeah, and in the same token, I heard of someone who actually signed their dog up, literally gave their dog a name, used the dog's first, name, and then just added this guy's last name to it, and his dog became an ordained minister after paying $20. So
I believe it.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, that doesn't hold any credibility with me either. It just doesn't.
Excuse me. We did a show back on August 10th, and we opened up the phone lines to our listeners, and we asked that they call in to bring up some topics. One particular caller that called the show on his own was James Anito. Now, we didn't know anything. We didn't know anything about him, and he was a kid. And I say a kid because he's young, 20-something, and he claimed to be a practicing demonologist. I do want to play a clip from that show and get your opinion on him. And if you prefer not to answer, we totally understand. But, Anthony, can you play that audio for us?
Yeah.
I think even the clergy are just humans, in all aspects. If you do what you do right, and I don't say anybody should become a demonologist or paranormal investigator should thoroughly involve themselves in a demonic case, or shall I, but you know what, that who's going to help the people? Because, and Bishop Long should know this himself, if a demonic case, depending on what church or diocese you're dealing with, they will and I've dealt with a few people that have told me, and I've had voicemails saying that you need to check yourself at a mental institution.
I agree with that.
What right do they have to tell you that? They should at least come in, and they should at least, as a clergy, and I voice my opinions on it because I've been told by the Catholic Church, and I've been told by the religious stores that were former priests or pastors that I shouldn't be doing this, and I told them straight out, well, you're not doing it. Your church tells people that they should go see a mental illness doctor because they're crazy, or they take 5 months to get out there to assist these people, and that's why I'm there. And if an exorcist needs to be involved, then I call somebody that does it, that is a cardinal or a bishop that can associate themselves and do that. But that's the big problem I have with the church, and I'm not connected to a church. I am an ordained minister. I do practice ministry. I do marry people, and I do it solely from the basis of myself. I have a base Church of Christ, but I think as long as you have the faith and you have the protection of God or light or whatever God you believe in, it has to be Christianity, because guess what? Demonology and exorcisms are in other religions based Islamic folklore, jinns. So it all depends on what has been suckered into your head or what you believe into, So it's all a different point, For somebody to tell me that I can't help people, it just makes it ridiculous, because I have more studies of demonic lore or know what they associate with than sometimes what the clergy members do. First time I met Father Bob Bailey and we sat down, and I loved the guy to death. I sat down with him to have dinner with him. Actually, it was lunch. And we were talking about some of the demonic lore and some of the things that, I've studied, that I've come across. And he's like, I've never even studied that or never come across it. He doesn't even know the demonic names on most of the levels. I know the basics like Leviathan or something like that, but if you go past that, even every clergy members don't even know.
All right, well, I'm going to cut it. We've got maybe about 40 more seconds to that, but I can hear you laughing, Melanie.
Because my head is literally going, choo, 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 choo. What the hell?
Okay, so Melanie, we know you did work with James, so what are your thoughts on him and what he was trying to say?
James was misguided. In all fairness, let me just start off by saying he is no longer practicing demonology. He's no longer in the field. Thank God. Yeah, I mean, he started out, and I will give him credit. He started out with, again, very, very good intentions of actually, he wanted to help people, and he tried to do initially what he thought was best, but very misguided. What he didn't understand is, yes, the church will refer people to seek a psychological evaluation prior to them coming in, as should be standard practice. And unfortunately, we had this debate. You guys heard the radio show, but we had this debate of, okay, James, I love you, but where the hell did you get your behavioral health degree? Do you know what symptoms are of any major mental illness, so on and so forth? Nope. Very egocentric, which is typical for his age, I will say, but a little too much.
Right, and there was one particular point in that when he mentioned how it took the Catholic Church 5 months to come out there, and that's when he came in. It's that Superman, mentality that, okay, nobody's out there for you. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to help you. I just thought that was just so, sneaky and sly, and I think that's the mentality of most of the demonologists out there, that they can get to the people a lot quicker than the Catholic Church or any hospital or, mental physician could do.
Well, yeah, because, think about it, especially for the younger, like James' age, out there trying to prove themselves as someone. We go in, we save the day, and we're wonderful. It's a boost to the ego.
Right.
Unfortunately, yes, he saw maybe 5 minutes of fame somewhere. I'm not really sure where, except maybe sitting in a hall somewhere where someone else was getting filmed, but... He took it as his 5 minutes of fame, and it went right to his head.
Well, you know what?
Like most people in this field, unfortunately.
Right.
Agreed. And I think the clip with James, and I think James' experience is a perfect example, but do you feel that this is becoming an epidemic among the young people that think that they can just study and read about demonology, and then they're going to go out and become a superhero and go with groups and cast out demons?
Yeah, I think that's a pervasive problem. Yes, I do. And unfortunately, again, I got to throw it back to the shows. You got a bunch of these kids that think they're going to be the next, Zach Bagans, and I'm sorry, but no. You might have 3,000 friends on Facebook, but in the grand scheme of things, does that really matter? Seriously, does it really matter? No. You're still no one. You're still nobody. Get over it.
Right.
We're all nobodies. That's fine. Get over it.
If Melanie, if somebody would have asked me who I thought was the worst of the worst in demonology, I would have to answer
Bob
that
Larson.
with I was just going to say Bob Larson.
Sorry,
Now,
just steal your thunder, man. I'm sorry.
It is. It's Bob Larson. And for those who don't know, Bob Larson is a so-called demonologist. He has written over 30 books on the subject and claims to have successfully conducted, get this, over 15,000 exorcisms on people. But the kicker is this: he has introduced his young daughters to the field. I remember when he was on, and I'm pretty sure you caught this, Melanie, when he was on Anderson Cooper's show a while back, and his daughters described performing an exorcism on her friend at a slumber party. The reason she said she performed it was because the friend had stayed away from her religion and had a headache. This is unbelievable to me. I mean, this is the problem with demonologists and what most of them do and what they teach. How has this man been able to last so long doing this, Melanie? Is it because people who feel he is so true are somewhat weak in their self-esteem? Is it self-esteem, or is it more so the mental disability that they may have?
Well, I mean, some of it is self-esteem. Some of it is mental illness. Some of it may just be curiosity. I mean, watching these people, I swear, it's like a train wreck in slow motion. You can't help but not watch. You have to, just to see, right. Oh, my God, is it going to blow up this time? I think you've got a combination of factors out there, I mean, you've got his attractive daughters, which I will tell you, I want to punch the man in the face for exploiting his kids that way,
I agree.
So I wonder how many clients are male. I hate to throw it out there, but
right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I agree. I mean, well, let's take this to the flip side, okay? And there are some good demonologists out there that have contributed to the field, like Ed and Lorraine Warren, Carl and Keith Johnson, and Adam Bly is someone who I really feel does stress the dangers of this field and of demons. Who do you feel are the good demonologists out there?
Well, I mean, aside from the ones you've mentioned, another one is Rich Valdez. He's out there, same as me. People, stop being stupid, do the right thing. I don't think I'm like some others that, like I hate to say how James used to throw out there, I've got this really dangerous case tonight, and, I need everybody's blessings, and blah, 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 blah. You never hear about Rich. Why is that?
Yeah.
Same reason why you'll never really hear about the cases that we have. A little thing called confidentiality and integrity.
Right. Right.
Well, he's not selling what everybody wants to see, what they want to hear.
No, because, he'll be the one to say, all right, did you get that psych eval done yet? Before I even come out there, and trying to keep the kids out of the field because they don't belong here. I'd hate to go off the track a little bit, but I'm seeing more and more children, like the youngest I've seen is like 9 years old, involved with the paranormal investigators team. Really?
Yeah.
That's
disturbing.
Sad. It is. It's more so sad and disturbing than anger because it's such a young child. I just don't think any children should be anywhere near the paranormal world, let alone anything demonic or within demonology.
Oh yeah, and this poor kid, is up on the website as a junior investigator, the whole nine. And all I can think is, oh boy, here come the pedophiles. Especially since this particular team that I'm talking about, I was involved with them at one point. Yeah, I know, stupid move. I tried to help them out, and bad memories. I'm kind of traumatized from that whole experience. But this particular team, one of the main reasons I left was because the leader failed to give us some very, very important information regarding a particular client. Other teams had gone in before, and the guy was, sexually deviant, and tried to barge into bathrooms when the investigators were using them. In the house, yes. And, of course, this leader failed to mention that, and thankfully I saw warning signs and got the team the hell out of Dodge and came up with a safety plan. But someone could have been really hurt. Now, without that person there to say, oh, yeah, this guy, you might want to watch out for him, what's going to happen to that 9-year-old?
I don't even want to think.
No, it's disturbing and it's disgusting. But okay,
that's okay because 51A has been filed on that particular case as well.
Good.
That's
good.
For anyone that doesn't know what that is, that's a filing to the State Department of Child and Family Services, whatever that may be in your state.
Good. Okay, let's move on. Anthony and I know of a guy named Jerry Williams, and he actually titles himself as Demonologist Bishop Jerry Williams. Now, we've tried to do some research on where he received his degrees or his titles, and we came across a bunch of roadblocks. But he's a radio host online that also teaches demonology to anyone that wants to learn it online. Then he gives out a certificate to the graduates. Now, he doesn't charge for this, but this whole idea of giving a certificate after completing a course can signify to the people that they're now a demonologist and they can go out and practice. Just how dangerous is this action, and should he be doing it?
That is very, very dangerous. No, he should not be doing that. I mean, no. No. Just no. For the reasons I mentioned before. I mean, you've got people out there, again, 95% of our clients that we see are referrals from other teams that have had, other teams have gone in before them, and these people are really, really messed up because some jerk went in there saying they've got portals, they've got demons, they've got this, they've got that. We're looking at suicidal ideation. We're looking at increased substance abuse, major depression, bipolar disorder that's completely out of whack with rapid cycling. No. Someone's going to get killed. And, either the investigator / demonologist, whatever he wants to call himself, or a client is going to actually be successful in killing themselves. And then, really? Is that what it's going to take for people to wake up? Because, it's not a far stretch. It is not a far stretch.
No, anything can happen. But, everything that we're talking about tonight, there's going to be a small percentage of folks who will listen but will not heed any advice, will not take they'll not take into account what you've just said now and what you've been saying for almost the last hour now. So for the folks that are actually going to continue to call on demonologists whenever they feel that there is something that is evil or paranormal, whatever it may be in their home or afflicted upon them, is there anything that you can, any advice, or maybe is there anything that you can inform these people that when they are asking or requesting for a demonologist, is there anything that they should look for or they should ask of the demonologist to maybe determine whether or not they're quote unquote real, or the ones that are just out there to push their own ego and grab their money?
Well, what do we do when we're looking for, a professional elsewhere, not in this particular field? Like, let's say you needed a therapist. What questions are you going to ask? What's your level of education? How long have you been doing this? Give me some examples of the specific interventions that you use. I want to see a resume. I want to talk to people. I want references and not your friends. I want to speak to some of your former clients, have them call me. So, maintain confidentiality if you need to do that. Treat them like you would any other professional that you're looking to seek for your own, services or whatever. Some kid that, I've been doing this for a year. No, I mean, no.
I would even say that these folks, these people who are looking for demonologists, should treat it as though this may be a bad metaphor, but it sort of makes the impact that they should interview the demonologists as though that they were going to be the babysitter of their child. They
Absolutely.
They should really ask the in-depth questions, not just what's on the surface, not just, the hokey-pokey, nicey-nicey questions. They should really get down to it and demand the answers and have a follow-up back to it and do the research to the answers that they were given, because this is so personal. This is so life-threatening that they really need to heed that advice to make sure that they're looking for the right demonologist. I'm not saying that, and all throughout tonight, we're not saying that all demonologists are bad. It's just that a majority of them are swindlers. A majority of them are fakers, and you need to weed out the right ones as opposed to being victim to a bad one. And that's what I'm hoping that you convey tonight to people, that it is like you are interviewing your own babysitter.
Yes, because, especially if you are dealing with families that, there are children involved or the elderly, on either end of the spectrum there, these people are very, very vulnerable to suggestibility, you don't, right. And the thing is, too, don't call a demonologist until after you've ensured that the person in the home that is supposedly the most afflicted has undergone a psychological evaluation. Like, seriously, yes, it's a pain in the butt. Okay, you're not going to get your investigation done in 2 days. It's going to take a while. But would you rather do it right, or do you want to do it half-assed and potentially end up liable for any damage that's done?
That should be a warning to the demonologist. You take responsibility because something bad can happen. And, if you are really not true, deep down, and this is a call out to the demonologists if they're listening tonight. If you really know that you are fake, if you really know that you were ordained online and that you really only read a couple of books and now you're out there going in homes, really take a look at yourself. And really take ownership of what you are about to do once you walk through that door in a quote-unquote victim's home or of claims of paranormal nature, where that you fire it in, that you instill it and throw gasoline on it, and possibly could burn it completely down. I really want those demonologists out there to really take note of that and really think twice. And hopefully there could be more of the, quote-unquote James Anitos out there that really take a look at it and maybe sort of back out of this field before that they do any more harm to anybody else.
Well, and again, I used an extreme example of, someone could be killed. People have been hurt physically and emotionally injured. I mentioned the young man that attempted to take his own life. I mentioned that 14-year-old girl who had tried to cut the demons out of her. There is a lawsuit going on in Florida between a family and a paranormal investigation team. I can't give out specifics, I'm sorry, because, again, another young girl, teenager, lit herself on fire after being told that she was possessed by a demon. And she sustained, obviously, some very serious burns. And I'm going to say, unfortunately, lived, because she is permanently scarred. And it's just a very, very sad, sad situation,
And it happens.
This can happen, and it is happening. So It's just a matter of time before it goes to the next extreme, because some asshole, excuse my language, has his head shoved firmly up to where you can see his colon. Enough.
Yeah. No, it's just very apparent that the so-called demonologists are more dangerous than any demon can be. It's unbelievable. But you know what, Melanie? Okay, let's say someone right now is feeling that they have a paranormal entity in their home or that it's haunted. What do you suggest is the first thing they need to do?
First thing they need to do, research the paranormal investigation teams, absolutely. I mean, if they're looking towards that measure, but in the same token, research a psychologist or a therapist to talk to. Because, I'm not going to be one to say, yep, absolutely, 100%, first thing you got to do is, as a client, run to a psychologist. Because let's face it, I will admit this, in my field, scientific community is very closed to paranormal experiences. I've heard more than once, I go and talk about these things, they want to put me in Worcester State, Yeah, yes, they're closed. Everything's a hallucination. You're obviously psychotic, so on and so forth. However, if you go to a therapist or a counselor, they are more apt to be open than a psychologist or a psychiatrist. They are also able to do assessments. I mean, that's what I am at this particular moment. I will have my doctorate soon, but right at this moment, I'm a master's level clinician and doctoral candidate. We're more open-minded.
Okay. And then, on the other hand, for the paranormal groups, what would you suggest that they do if they come to a home where they feel that there is a so-called demonic entity?
Check yourself. Go outside, take a breath, come back in, and see if you still feel that way. No. No, but actually, there is some truth in that. One of the things that we do say in the psych field, counselor, know thyself. If you go in with, how do I put this, predisposed notions based upon what you've heard from the client, you're going to be more apt to fall into that trap as well. Stay objective. You have to stay objective. That family is counting on you to be objective. Check your personal beliefs at the door. They have no place in that home. And don't forget about the aftercare as well. Yes, that person needs, again, a counselor of some sort, whether it's a spiritual counselor, psychological counselor, so on and so forth. And if you still think that it's possibly demonic, after you've checked yourself, refer the client for a psych eval, and then call a good demonologist.
Out of everything that we've talked about tonight, I'm not sure if there was anything else that you may want to convey, but if there's one thing that the listeners in chat and the people who are listening right now, is there one thing that you want them to take away? Either it be advice, either it be a quote, either it be anything helpful or anything, a statement, anything like that. Is there one thing that you would love for somebody to take away tonight?
Don't forget about the psychological aspects of perceived paranormal experience. They're very, very, very important. I mean, really, that's the thing that we have been trying to stress. Everyone, there's so many teams that do go in to these investigations with their gadgets and their knowledge of, theory. Everything in this field is theory. You have to have some true scientific backing when you're investigating. Hold on to that. Check the theory at the door while you're in that house. And that's really what we want people to remember.
And I think it's a whole different world when you walk into a private home with a family, as opposed to what you were talking about before, going into an abandoned asylum or, a abandoned warehouse. I think those are two totally separate things. I think there's more ownership, there's more responsibility when you walk into a private home, because there's more at stake, I think.
Absolutely. And, in the same token, and, this is no offense to anyone who may be in the chat, but if you're relatively new to investigation, I'm not going to sugarcoat this, guys. Stay the hell out of homes. Stay out. You don't belong there. Stay out.
I agree.
Mhm.
I agree. It's almost as if it's sort of like the novice. You really have to understand, and not that anybody could truly understand the paranormal, but I mean, you have to be in it. And again, it's not about years that you've been involved or whatever it is, but I mean, it's just on a higher level when you walk into a private home, because paranormal investigators will go out there and they understand the consequences. They understand what could happen to them if they walk into a haunted location, bad or good, whatever it is. They understand that. But when you go into a home, it's not you anymore. It's the family. It's the people that are living there. That is what I mean about responsibility and the ownership that you have to take when you go into a private home. And I agree with you 150%. Nobody who is new to the paranormal should ever step foot into a private home.
No, and and the other part of that is let's just think for a moment, what if there really is something paranormal, or I hate even using the word, I'll be honest with you, demonic, in the house. You go in, you piss it off, you leave.
Right.
They don't. So just think of the baggage you're leaving behind, emotionally or paranormally. Hey, I just made a new word.
I love it.
And I've been up since 3:30 this morning.
Oh, God. Melanie, how can our listeners contact you, or where can they go to learn more about you and what your group can offer?
Well, I am right on Facebook, but otherwise, just hop right onto our website. There's an email link and all that great stuff there, and that actually it's www.prismparanormal.org. And everything's all up there. And we do have copies of the safety assessment that we encourage teams to use if they absolutely must do home investigations. And there's also a list of commonly prescribed psychotropic medications that, again, if you're doing homes, you should be looking for these, and it also lists the side effects. Amongst some other great goodies.
Melanie, do you have any plans to write a book on your experiences?
Eventually. I'll be honest with you, I'm debating on whether or not to actually do my dissertation on what I'm finding. Of course, I'm going to probably end up the most hated woman in the paranormal field because I'd be psychoanalyzing most of the investigators as well. I have a lot of data on you guys. No, sorry.
Well, how would the scientific community feel about your dissertation on that?
Well, I mean, I will admit they're closed-minded to a lot of the paranormal stuff, but not perceived paranormal and specific, vulnerabilities to mental illness. For instance, there have been some very recent studies regarding the neuropsychiatry of paranormal experience, showing essentially what areas of the brain, when, let's say, someone has a seizure, what causes, quote-unquote, mystical experiences. There have been studies regarding that, the correlation between perceived paranormal experiences, mental health, mental boundaries, some of your severe psychotic disorders, and actually another new one I got all excited about, expounds upon a previous study between dissociative trance disorder, which I'll tell you guys, it very, very closely mimics what one sees in purported possession. And it basically shows the difference between what we call dissociative trance and dissociative identity disorder, which was formerly known as multiple personality disorder. And they're very, very close. And probably a lot of what you guys see if you are doing residential cases and hear about all this demonic activity. Yeah, no, sorry. It's all clinical stuff, guys.
Well, what's coming up for Melanie? Do you have any new cases or events that you might be attending?
Events, no. PRISM has taken the stance that we are not doing any conferences this year. We're not doing events. We're spitting on them because this is not a popularity contest. And quite frankly, I don't give a shit who knows me. Sorry.
I love it.
I love you, Melanie.
Oh, God, I love you too. No, as Frank says, no awards for us. If anything, people are trying to force us out. As far as plans, yes, we're booked solid as far as cases and stuff like that, but you'll never hear about it because it's all confidential.
Right.
Other than that, man, I'm just surviving,
I understand that. Well, you know what, Melanie? It was so cool to have you on the show tonight. We want to thank you for taking the time and sharing your message with us.
Well, thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Melanie. And I love to give the little background on how we got Melanie on here. And you had briefly mentioned it, but we heard you on another radio show, and I was just enthralled about that whole conversation. I loved the way that you spoke. I thought, if I could scream into that, into my laptop when I heard it, I think you would have heard me. I just thought it was a fascinating show, and we knew we had to get you on to get this message out there, and we really do appreciate you doing that.
Oh, thank you. It's a lot of fun. You guys are a lot of fun. Although,
great.
I'm really upset I couldn't get any of those Skittles. I want some of those dark side Skittles she keeps talking about.
We got to get Connie then.
Hey, come on.
Well, thank you so much, Melanie, and we hope to actually have you back on the show. Maybe when you finish your dissertation, we can talk about it.
All right, sounds good. Anytime, guys. Anytime.
All right, great. Thank you, Melanie. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
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 Well, that was great.
That was awesome.
I thought we'd get a little bit more heated. Did you?
No, it was very calm. It was very nice. It was very good because it was very true. I think what Melanie brought to the table is something that has to be discussed, and you have to discuss it in a calm and rational manner, and I think she did an excellent job of doing that.
And I really think that there are a lot of people out there, whether you're in a group or not, I think this side of people who are within the paranormal, I think it is not recognized, and I think it should be. And when people talk about having a psychological evaluation on people, right away people think, I'm not crazy, I'm not this, or I wouldn't dare ask that of people because people will shoot me out or hang up the phone or close the door in my face if I say that. But it needs to be done. It really does need to be done. I think just the questions alone and finding out personally what is going on with the family can say a lot to whether or not the activities that are going in the house are something within their mind, something that they're creating themselves, or is actually paranormal. Now, if you guys remember, I had talked about this maybe a couple of shows back, that as a for instance or an example, I had LASIK surgery maybe about 8 or 10 years ago, and I remember the doctor at the time had told me that I'm going to see little sparks of white light sometimes, maybe once in a blue moon, it could happen maybe once a year, whatever it is. And I've experienced that. It has happened to me, and it's because of the nature of the LASIK surgery. And so, if that wasn't told to me, I could easily turn around and say, you know what, I'm seeing these white things popping up in my house or in my work or in my car, whatever it is, and automatically think it's paranormal. And I think that if people who are out there who weren't told of this, weren't told or aren't prone to understand and learn about things that could be perceived as happening based upon either their medicines that they're taking or maybe, heredity stuff that has been passed down that you just don't realize and don't know. Maybe there's things that you have never even known about your family, that you should research to find out whether or not that is the cause first, because that would eliminate a whole set of things and a whole slew of problems because, once again, suggestion is a big thing in this field. And if you walk in and you say, you know what, I think you are haunted, or I think you are possessed, or I think the house is haunted, it is prone to suggestion, which feeds into that client, that victim, and can perpetuate even more of a mess to begin with. And I think that this show tonight hopefully will sink into somebody. If it sinks into one person, I think we've done our job.
I agree. You know what? I truly believe that these so-called demonologists are they're dangerous, just like Melanie said. The potential to harm somebody further than where they're at. And I can only speak from personal experience. In my family, there are instances of mental problems as a result of both alcohol and drugs. And a lot of the symptoms that come across with the results of both the drugs and the alcohol, things like voices, things like perceiving things. I mean, these are things that obviously are not paranormal, demonic in nature, but yet if someone were to come across and a demon like, you're possessed, the potential for damage is so great. Someone who truly is knowledgeable about what they're doing really has to do the research. You have to look at all of the situation. What are the prevailing factors? What things are there to begin with? The potential for harm, to harm somebody. And when she mentioned the poor girl in Florida, my heart just breaks for something like that. I mean, here you have a child that is so traumatized that she feels that the only way out is to harm herself. That's not helping. That is not what, if you're a demonologist, that's not what you want to do. I mean, the fact that you can go online and take a course and read a book and, oh, wow, now I can go out and I can cast out demons. Unbelievable that anyone in their right mind can believe this to start with. Melanie talks about the damage to children. Children should not be involved in any type of paranormal investigation or anything like that. I mean, it's just common sense. You want to protect your children as much as possible. And I did want to mention there was a show this week, Paranormal Project. And, Anthony, I don't know if you've seen it yet.
No.
I did get a chance to watch it. And there were two stories on it. One of them was good. I enjoyed it. The second one disturbed me. And the reason why it did disturb me is because it involved a family, and I guess the mother was claiming that she had been possessed and she was having blackouts and she didn't remember what she was saying. That was fun, okay? She's an adult. But what disturbed me greatly was that the daughter, she had a young daughter, I want to say maybe 12 or 13 years of age. The child was so traumatized by what was going on with her mother. And it was almost like they were just so busy trying to, talk about the demons that were bothering her mother, and no one was paying attention to the child. It was almost like, okay, go to your room and don't listen. The damage that child was getting from being, first off, being exposed to this kind of thing, And from just the things that were going on was unbelievable. It was disturbing to watch, and I am hoping that by seeing something like that on television kind of opens up the door to other people thinking, you know what, this is not something to play with. It is not something that you can go into a home and, you know, I can help your family and I can do this. No, you can't. You really need to be, like Melanie said, check yourself. Check yourself before you start doing this kind of thing.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself. But it's true. I mean, you know, even the Catholic Church, even the Vatican, you know, they say it. The exorcisms that they would perform are not 100% accurate. There's no real, you know, foolproof way to get rid of a so-called demon. There really is not. And so, you know, for folks that claim to be demonologists walking in and saying that they can get rid of demons, that they're this demon doctor, Dr. Dodd, I'm going to come in and be able to rid you of everything, and even do it, that he claims, remotely by phone. Are you kidding me? It just is almost laughable but sad at the same time, because he's still active. These people are still active. People are still calling them up. You know, there was another person that I had heard about just recently, and I don't know too much about this person, and her name is Lori Champion. And her claim to fame is, you know, creating this title for herself as the hostile haunts specialist. Now, I'm not sure what the difference is between a hostile haunts specialist and a demonologist. She claims that there is, and her efforts are to rid homes of evil spirits, which I believe is the same thing as a demonologist. It just, I mean, no matter how you word it, no matter what words you put to, you know, what letters you put at the end of your name or in the beginning of your name, it's all the same. You're not a doctor. You're not somebody who is the cure, the end-all cure for whatever's ailing you. It's not something that you can just pop a pill and be done with it. And one of the things that I know Melanie wants to stress a lot is the aftercare. You know, a lot of these groups walk into these places and these homes and they deal with them for 1 or 2 nights, or sometimes in some cases just several hours in a home, and claim to get to exercise and claim to get rid of these demons that are in their homes, and then they go home and they go out to IHOP or, you know, whatever it is afterwards, and everything is all hunky-dory, everything is fine, and then that's it. There's no callback. There's no visitation after the fact to these clients, to these victims, to find out if anything's as you know, reoccurred or have they done that. It's not out there. It's another basic notch on their belt that they want to put, you know, pictures of and the story of on their website so that they can say that they've added another case to the list. You know, like the Bob Larson, he's got 15,000 exorcist cases. 15,000 exorcist cases. Are you kidding me?
That makes no sense. That makes no sense. But one thing that when we talked to Bishop Long, that he said that has struck me and has always remained with me, you know what, if these demonologists have really come in contact with a demon, I don't think they'd still be doing what they're doing.
No.
It just doesn't make sense, you know. It's like, okay, just because you read something, and I just saw Brian put something, he typed something in the chat room about having a pure heart. I think that says millions. I mean, if these people are going into it, and obviously, you know, we've touched a little bit on it, these demonologists, you know, we're talking about ego, we're talking about a false sense of who they are. You know, I think they have a few problems to begin with. And like you said earlier, it's the blind leading the blind. How can you help someone if your slate is not clear, if you are not in a good spot to begin with? I mean, in order to help someone, wouldn't it make sense that Your ego, there's no room for ego here. There's no room for I'm going to do this and I'm going to be the best demonologist ever and I'm going to be famous. It's got nothing to do with fame. It's got nothing to do with making a name
That's
for
right.
yourself.
That's not what they should be in the business for. Is the fame. They see the Zach Baggins and all these other people that are, and I hate to keep bringing up his name all the time, but they see these Zach Baggins on the show and they want to be just like them. They idolize them. And to your point, people in glass houses should not cast the first stone. When you're dealing with the so-called demons, if that is the case, and you are dealing with an evil spirit like a demon, that you yourself should be pure, just like what you said that Brian said, excuse me, that you should be pure. And that's why we always say that there should be someone of the faith, there should be someone of the clergy that actually enacts the actual process of an exorcism or a casting out of demons. It should not be someone who is, of fault, of sin, and who is not under the guidance of whoever their God is. It should not be that person. It should be someone of the clergy.
And again, it's not just Catholic. I mean, we're both Catholic, but it's not like the Catholics have a lock on this. I mean, regardless of what your faith is, it does boil down to having a pure heart, and it boils down to your intentions. If your intentions are truly to help, then yes, I think that makes a big, big difference. But seriously, people, what's on television is entertainment. It is entertainment. It is not the real thing. And I think too many of these young people are watching these shows and they're like, oh, cool, I want to be this. Or, you see investigators going into a site and you're like, okay, I want to see a demon. Go ahead, scratch me, do this. Be careful of what you ask for, because you know what? You're going to get it. You really are.
I love when you do those little reenactments, when you change your voice. It sets the mood. It sets the tone.
It's the Skittles.
Connie and those damn dark side Skittles. So, Lucy, what do you feel, or what do you hope comes out of the show tonight? What do you hope people will gather and gain or walk away with? Is there anything that Melanie has said or that we've discussed tonight that you're hoping that comes across to people?
Well, the first thing I do know that I think the people that really need to hear the message are not going to listen to it. I really, truly believe that the so-called demonologists are going to continue to do what they're doing. I think, like we mentioned, I think it's ego. I think their intentions to do something to make a name for themselves and to become famous. I think that's just much too strong with some of these people. But for the person that's listening to this show, I am hoping that by hearing Melanie talk about the other side of this, and probably the most important side of it, will give them a little bit of hope and a little bit of second thought before they run and they say, oh, I've got a demon. When it boils down to it, I mean, mental illness is something in this country that we don't address. We don't talk about it. It's almost like it's a form of medicine and treatment that the average person, this whole country as a whole, we don't talk about this. But when it boils down to it, if there's something that's happening in your home or something that's happening to you, I'm going to venture to say that it's probably a lot easier to deal with some form of mental illness than it is to deal with an actual demon. And honestly, I still truly believe that if you come across a demon, you're going to know it. You will know it. But before you start screaming and saying, oh, no, I've got a demon, I'm possessed, or this person is possessed, I'm hoping that Melanie's message will just give people a little bit of a chance to stop and think. Think about what is happening before you call in, the demonologist cavalry.
There was a funny story this week that you had told me or you shared with me, in regards to someone who reached out to you in regards to a neighbor of theirs who was wanting to commit suicide. And this person was reaching out to you in the hopes of finding a psychic. And what was funny and disturbing at the same time was why this person would reach out to you, and I'm not saying you in particular, but to reach out to anybody where you've just learned of a neighbor or a good friend who says that they want to commit suicide. Why would you reach out to a psychic? And I'm not downing psychics at all, but what is the purpose of a psychic's involvement in your friends, your neighbors, your family members' request to commit suicide? That just blew my mind when you told me that story. And it sort of correlates to this because it's that search for an answer. It's that search for, I need somebody to tell me what to do or to let me know what's going on. And what was shocking was the first thing that they didn't do was either call a clinic or call 911.
You know what? To me, it was very, very sad. And I understand that the person was very upset and very worried. And I get that. I understand that. But the only thing is that there's also that need to have that instant fix, that need to have someone say, okay, I know where this person is, go to here, here, and here. It would be wonderful. It would be wonderful to have that. And I understand in times of complete trauma, yes, you do look for these answers. But there is also a rational side to it. There's a process that needs to be done. Calling the police is the first thing you need to do. You need to get across that this person is in an unbalanced state of mind, that there is something that's happening. There's the emergency rooms. There are, gather people in the family. Get out there. Look for the person. My heart goes out to people that have that type of situation. There's nothing more tragic than a person that feels that there's nothing else for them, that the only solution to their problem is to end it. That is a very, very sad thing, and no one is discounting that. But on the other hand, it is such a serious issue that I think it needs to be addressed with the proper channels and not with a psychic and not with, some medium or anything like that. And again, I don't down psychics and mediums. I mean, I know some wonderful, wonderful mediums and psychics, but I also know that when it comes to a situation like that, it is a truly serious situation, which leads into the demonic, exactly what we're talking about. There is a time for... There's a time and place for everything. and that request that I heard, that was the wrong time and the wrong place to ask for that. And I think the same thing can go with people who claim that they are possessed. There is a demon in their home, they're haunted, whatever it is, and the first thing that they think of, because they've heard demonologist, that word, that doctor, that's the first thing that they think of, and that's who they're going to call. And regardless of anything else, be duped into the fact that they can be cured of it, whatever it is, and these false prophets, these false demonologists will come in and claim to do it and give you the answer. But it just feeds into that mental disability that person already has. You're feeding more to it. You're just giving more blame, more issues that are being created for that person that you have no idea what you could be doing, which leads to what Melanie was talking about, to the girl in Florida and the other cases that you talked about where they just ended in tragedy. And this is something that should be looked at a little bit deeper, a little bit harder, and that's why I called out to the demonologists who are listening, who are hearing our words right now, to really take a look at what you're doing and really take notice and find out if this is what you should be continuing to do or not, because there are people who are getting hurt, unnecessarily getting hurt, and also possibly dying from your hand. it's a really big responsibility. And if you can live with yourself with blood on your hands, then more power to you. But you know what? If there's something that we can do or say that will help somebody and prevent a tragedy from happening, then we're going to say it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all there is to it.
I don't think we can say any more. I don't think we can. I don't think we can say any more because I think everything has been said, and if at this point nobody's convinced, if people have turned off the sound right now, there's no help for them, and I'm not going to talk till I'm blue in the face anymore. I just hope it doesn't end up in a tragedy to the point where these people will realize and then maybe change their faith, maybe change their actions. I just hope it doesn't. Some people have to hit rock bottom in order to wake up, but the reason why we're doing this show is to give that information to people, to get that word out to everybody in the hopes that we don't have to hit that tragedy in order for them to change. We hope that this makes the impact. And if it doesn't, I'm saddened. I hope things do change, but I don't think there's anything anymore that, you or I or Melanie or anybody else can say at this point if they're not already listening.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
So we got some time left. Do you want to get to some fan mail?
Sure. Let's see. I have one. And this one is from Francie. Dear Anthony and Lucy, I love your show. You cover such a variety of topics. It is so much fun to listen every week. Will you ever do a show on voodoo or Santeria? Do you believe that it's real? Keep up the great work. Thanks, Francie. And she's got a P.S. My boyfriend said that you would never read this on air. Francine, your boyfriend owes you.
Your boyfriend's wrong, Francine.
Yes, we will. I have been trying to get in touch with a voodoo priestess in New Orleans, and I'm hoping that we will be able to do a show on voodoo. Do I believe it's real? I don't know. I'm on the fence. I think voodoo is real to the people that believe it is real. I believe that there are forces that, such as in everything, that we don't know anything about. Personally, I don't know enough about it to specifically say whether or not it's real or not, which is the reason why I want to talk to a voodoo priestess. Now, as far as Santeria, growing up in the neighborhood, of course, you always see these botanicas and you see all of the, you hear talk of brujas, which is witch in Spanish. And, my grandmother is reported to be a bruja, So there are these things that as you're growing up, it's cultural. There are things that people talk about, and they truly do believe that these things exist. So I want to talk to someone who actually is a practitioner. I want to talk to somebody who does believe this, and I want to see what their take is on it.
Isn't bruja a military chant?
Bruja. No.
Okay, I'm wrong.
No, but it's just like everything else. We've done shows on Wicca, and people discount that. Well, you know what? It is a real thing. There are people that do believe in the forces of nature and things like that. Who are we to say that voodoo is not real? Who are we to say that Santeria is not real? The whole point is to have an open mind. I truly believe that there are people that really do believe this is real. And for them, that reality is their reality. Again, it goes back to what I say. Your own truth is your own truth. So I'm hoping that we will be able to schedule the voodoo priestess, and hopefully we'll get an email sooner. I've reached out to her a couple of times. She did agree. It's just a matter of scheduling. Anthony, do you believe?
Well, I don't know anything about voodoo or Santeria. I've heard about it, I've read upon it, but I don't know what my belief is on it. I've never practiced it, so I don't know what comes out of it, what happens to a person, and I'm curious to find out from this voodoo priestess that hopefully we'll have on the show what it's all about, and will open my mind to the possibility of it being real or not. I don't know.
Well, I do collect voodoo dolls, and I have made the pilgrimage to St. Louis Cemetery No. 1, and I've gone to Marie Laveau's grave, and I've left an offering. So, like I said, I am more prone to probably believe yes, it does exist, but I'm just looking for that confirmation. I really am, and I want to go to New Orleans.
Does one of your voodoo dolls have a picture of my face on it?
I'm not telling.
Oh, shit. I got to be nice to you now.
That's right.
Oh, God.
And don't you forget that.
All right. Why don't you get on to the fan of the week?
Okay. The Paranormal Radio Review Fan of the Week.
Again, you said it backwards.
ADD.
Is that the voodoo or is that ADD?
No, that's dyslexia. It's that mental health that I need. The Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week. This week is a very special fan. It is Shelley Bradley of Newport Beach, California. She is very, very special. She has a website called CosmicKids.com, and that's cosmic with a K and a Z. It is a metaphysical and spiritual site for kids and adults with special intuitive gifts. Shelley is an outstanding woman who likes martial arts, Taibo, the movie Practical Magic, the musical group Placebo, and of course, Shelley likes Paranormal Review Radio. Thank you so much for being a fan, Shelley. Thank you for coming into my life, and we love you.
Yeah, and Shelley is in chat. She's Cosmic Kids right there. That's her chat name. And don't forget, if you want to be a Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week, just like us on Facebook, Paranormal Review Radio.
Okie dokie. Well, you know what? The paranormal is so full of so many things that we don't have the answers for yet. It's an unknown frontier, just as the Wild West was. And you know what? Just like the Wild West, there are the snake oil salesmen who are going to sell you a bottle of what ails you and take your hard-earned money for it. If you get nothing else from tonight's show, we hope that you at least think twice about what claims people make when it comes to eliminating paranormal issues or learning to investigate. Question everything, check things out, but keep an open mind, and most of all, keep your money in your pocket. While there are frauds and misguided individuals, there are many caring and real people that can help. Melanie Cabrera is one of them. We want to thank Melanie again for joining us and sharing her message. So, I believe the groundhog did not see his shadow, so that means we should get an early spring. And, of course, you know what that means. Start planning your paranormal investigations. Anthony and I have started to do that, and we may actually have a location for the end of March. So, what about you? Are you unsure where to go? Well, when we were researching, we found a really great website. Craig Mitten is the founder and the writer for the website hauntednorthamerica.net. And this website has it all. I mean, seriously. Possible haunted locations across the country, a rating system on the level of activity, and so much more. We'll be talking to Craig next Friday on his website and what he's found out about these places. And if you've ever wanted to investigate a location, but you weren't sure about it, listen in next Friday and call in your questions to Craig. It's going to be a great informative discussion, and it can help you book your next investigation. Thank you, everyone, for listening. You guys are the best fans ever. Anthony, thank you so much for a fantastic show. You are so amazing.
Before you end, Lucy, before you end, I just wanted to let everybody know that we are actually going to be interviewed this Sunday.
Oh, that's right.
the 24th of February on Seers of the Soul Radio. We are actually going to be the guests this time. We are not going to be hosts. We're going to be guests. So listen in on Seers of the Soul Radio, which is on blogtalkradio.com, this Sunday, the 24th of February at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Maybe you'll get to learn a little bit more about Lucy and I and what makes us tick.
Oh, my God, here we go. But anyway, we'll post the link for that on our website. But if you guys get a chance Sunday night, I know the Oscars are on, but you know what? It's us. Come on, you got to listen. So anyway, until Sunday night and next week, my fellow paranormal pioneers, have a meteor-free and paranormal week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Paranormal Review Radio. Paranormal Review Radio.